shadows of the trees were long and thin on the grass as they started off again. They now kept a stone's throw to the left of the road and kept out of sight of it as much as they could, but this hindered them, for the grass was thick and tussocky, and the ground uneven, and the trees began to draw together into thickets. The sun had gone down, red behind the hills at their backs, and evening was coming on before they came back to the road at the end of the long level over which it had run straight for some miles. At that point, it bent left and went down into the lowlands of the Yale, making for Stock. But a lane branched right, winding through a wood of ancient oak trees on its way to Wood Hall. "That is the way for us," said Frodo. Not far from the road meeting, they came on a huge hulk of a tree. It was still alive, and had leaves on the small branches that it had put out round the broken stumps of its long fallen limbs. But it was hollow, and could be entered by a great crackle on the side way, away from the road. The hobbits crept inside, and sat there upon a floor of old leaves and decayed wood. They rested, and had a light meal, talking quietly and listening from time to time. Twilight was about them as they crept back into the lane. The west wind was sighing in the branches. Leaves were whispering. Soon the road began to fall gently but steadily into the dusk. A star came out above the trees in the darkening east before them. They went abreast and in step to keep up their spirits. After a time, as the stars grew thicker and brighter, the feeling of disquiet left them, and they no longer listened for the sound of hoofs. They began to hum softly, as hobbits have a way of doing as they walk along, especially when they are drawing near to home at night. With most hobbits, it is a supper song, or a bed song, but these hobbits hummed a walking song, though not, of course, without any mention of supper and bread. Bilbo Baggins had made the words to a tune that was as old as the hills, and taught it to Frodo as they walked in the lanes of the Water Valley, and talked about adventure. Upon the hearth the fire is red, beneath the roof there is a bed, but not yet weary are our feet. Still round the corner we may meet a sudden tree or standing stone, that none have seen but we alone. Tree and flower, leaf and grass, let them pass, let them pass. Hill and water under sky, pass them by, pass them by. Still round the corner there may wait a new road or a secret gate, and though we pass them by today, tomorrow we may come this way, and take a hidden path that run towards the moon or to the sun. Apple, thorn, and nut and slow, let them go, let them go. Sand and stone and pool and dell, fare thee well, fare you well. Home is behind, the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread, through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alight. Then the world behind and home ahead will wander back and home to bed. Mist and twilight, cloud and shade, away shall fade, away shall fade. Fire and lamp and meat and bread, and then to bed, and then to bed. The song ended. "And now to bed, and now to bed," sang Pippin in a high voice. "Hush!" said Frodo. "I think I hear hoofs again." They stopped suddenly, and stood as silent as tree shadows, listening. There was a sound of hoofs in the lane, some way behind, but coming slow and clear down the wind. Quickly and quietly, they slipped off the path and ran into the deeper shade under the oak trees. "Don't let us go too far," said Frodo. "I don't want to be seen, but I don't want to see if there is another Black Rider." "Very well," said Pippin, "but don't forget the sniffing." The hoofs drew nearer. They had no time to find any hiding place, better than the general darkness under the trees. Sam and Pippin crouched behind a large tree bole, while Frodo crept back a few yards towards the lane. It showed grey and pale, a line of fading light through the wood. Above it the stars were thick in the dim sky, but there was no moon. The sound of hoofs stopped. As Frodo watched, he saw something dark pass across the lighter space between two trees, and then halt. It looked like the black shade of a horse led by a smaller black shadow. The black shadow stood close to the point where they had left the path, and it swayed from side to side. Frodo thought he had heard the sound of snuffling. The shadow bent to the ground, and then began to crawl towards him. Once more, the desire to slip on the ring came over Frodo. But this time, it was stronger than before. So strong that, almost before he realized what he was doing, his hand was groping in his pocket. But at that moment, there came a sound, like a mingled song and laughter. Clear voices rose and fell in the starlit air. The black shadow straightened up and retreated. It climbed onto the shadowy horse and seemed to vanish across the lane into the darkness on the other side. Frodo breathed again.
Elves!
Exclaimed Sam with a hoarse whisper.
Elves, sir!
He would have burst out of the trees and dashed off towards the voices if they had not pulled him back.
Yes, it is elves, said Frodo. One can meet them sometimes in the woody end. They don't live in the Shire, but they wander into it in spring and autumn, out of their own lands away beyond the Tower Hills. I'm thankful that they do. You did not see, but that black rider stopped just here and was actually crawling to us when the song began, and as soon as he heard the voices, he slipped away.
What about the elves? Said Sam, too excited to trouble about the rider.
Can we go and see them? Listen,
they're coming this way, said Frodo.
We have only to wait.
The singing drew nearer. One clear voice rose now above the others. It was singing in the fair elven tongue, of which Frodo knew only a little, and the others knew nothing. Yet the sound, blending with the melody, seemed to shape itself in their thought into words which they could only partly understand. This was the song that, as Frodo heard it. Snow white, O lady clear, O queen beyond the western seas, O light to us, what wonder here, amid the world of woven trees. Gilthoniel, O Elbereth, clear are the skies, clear are thy eyes, and bright thy breath. Snow white, we sing to thee, in a far land beyond the sea. O stars that in the sunless year, with the shining hand by her were sown, in windy fields now bright and clear, we see your silver blossom blown. O Elbereth, Gilthoniel, we still remember, we who dwell in this far land beneath the trees, thy starlight on the western seas. The song ended.
These are high elves! They spoke the name of Elbereth,
said Frodo in amazement.
Few of that fairest folk are ever seen in the Shire. Not many now remain in Middle-earth, east of the Great Sea. This is indeed a strange chance.
The hobbits sat in shadow by the wayside. Before long, the elves came down the lane towards the valley. They passed slowly, and the hobbits could see the starlight glimmering on their hair and in their eyes. They bore no lights, yet as they walked, a shimmer, like the light of the moon above the rim of the hills before it rises, seemed to fall about their feet. They were now silent, and as the last elf passed, he turned and looked towards the hobbits, and laughed. "Hail, Frodo!" he cried. "You are abroad late, or are you perhaps lost?" Then he called aloud to the others, and all the company stopped and gathered round. "This is indeed wonderful," they said. "3 hobbits in a wood at night. We have not seen such a thing since Bilbo went away. What is the meaning of it?" "The meaning of it, fair people," said Frodo, "is simply that we seem to be going the same way as you are. I like walking under the stars, but I would welcome your company." "But we have no need for other company, and hobbits are so dull," they laughed. "And how do you know that we go the same way as you? For you do not know whither we are going." "And how do you know that name?" asked Frodo in return. "Well, we know many things," they said. "We have seen you often before with Bilbo, though you may not have seen us." "Who are you, and who is your lord?" asked Frodo. "I am Gildor," answered their leader, the elf who had first hailed him, "Gildor Inglorium of the House of Finrod. We are exiles, and most of our kindred have long ago departed, and we are now only tarrying here a while, ere we return over the great sea. But some of our kinsfolk dwell still in peace in Rivendell. Come now, Frodo, tell us, what are you doing? For we see that there is some shadow of fear upon you." "All wise people," interrupted Pippin eagerly, "tell us about the Black Riders." "Black Riders," they said in low voices. "Why do you ask about the Black Riders?" Because 2 Black Riders have overtaken us today, or one has done so twice," said Pippin. "Only a little while ago, he slipped away as you drew near." The elves did not answer at once, but spoke together softly in their own tongue. At length, Gildor turned to the hobbits. "We will not speak of this here," he said. "We think you had best come now with us. It is not our custom, but for the time we will take you on our road, and you shall lodge with us tonight, if you will." "O fair folk, this is good fortune beyond my hope," said Pippin. Sam was speechless. "I thank you indeed, Gildor Inglorian," said Frodo, bowing. "Elen Sila, Lumen, Omentielvo. A star shines on the hour of our meeting," he added in High Elven speech. "Oh, be careful, friends," cried Gildor, laughing. "Speak no secrets. Here is a scholar in the ancient tongue. Bilbo was a good master. Hail, elf friend," he said, bowing to Frodo. "Come now with your friends and enjoy our company. You had best walk in the middle so that you may not stray. You may be weary before we halt." "Why? Where are you going?" asked Frodo. "For tonight we go to the woods and the hills above Woodhall. It is some miles, but you shall have rest at the end of it, and it will shorten your journey tomorrow."